once again to this edition of the Cow Report. We're coming to you live from the new beautiful Cow Report studios here at Banbury Place in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Of course, this is another beautiful day, March 11th, 1996, and it was just wonderful out there. Yes. Of course, with me is, as usual, is my rusty, trusty sidekick, Fred the Truth Everett, and his name is even on the title down there.
Yes.
And of course, Fred, boy oh boy, we got a lot to talk about.
Right.
And you know, Fred, we always like to start the show by asking you a question to see how sharp you are.
Yes.
Because we always got to test you to see how sharp you are. And this way, we'll know. What's it been now? 20, 25 years we've been doing this show?
No, we haven't been on for that many years.
Of course, we got Roy Rogers Hoff in the other room there, and he's a great nephew of Hopalong Cassidy's sister, Calamity Jane, Fred. So you probably remember all them. Right there around the turn of the century, that wasn't too long ago. You should remember that like it was yesterday. Okay, Freddie, March 11th. Wasn't it beautiful out there today, Fred?
Yes, it certainly was.
Did you get a tan out there today? Or
I didn't get any
sunny?
tan, I'm sorry.
Okay, March 11th. 1942. General Douglas MacArthur is forced from these group of islands by advancing Japanese forces. He utters the famous words, "I shall return." What islands were those?
Philippines.
That's right. Now, where were you on that day, Fred? 1942, the summer of 42.
1942, I was...
Spring of 42.
I was in New Jersey, in Fort...
Dix?
No, not Dix. I can't think of the name of it now. But that's where I was.
Well, that's a good place to be.
I was serving in the Coast Guard.
All right. Were you in dry dock that week, or?
I was probably down. That was in 42.
Well, Fred, you know, April 15th is right around the corner.
Yes.
That's tax day.
Yes.
I think they're going to even have a day of prayer across the nation that day, too, for the people that have to pay some of the outrageous taxes. And there's 5 things you can do, Fred, before April 15th to straighten up your taxes. And I'll tell you, it's pretty long. But if somebody would like to get a copy of this, I can mail it to them at P.O. Box 992, Fred. And there's 5 crucial things you need to do between now and April 15th to make sure that your taxes are in order. And somebody wants to write, they can write to me at P.O. Box 992, Eau Claire, 54702, and I'll get that out to them. Because this comes from a tax newsletter that I get, Fred. And one of the crucial things is to pay the taxes you owe on time, Fred.
Yes.
Otherwise, you get into all kinds of penalties and stuff. All right, Freddie. And another thing out there for people that like to make a few bucks. I get a newsletter on sports collectibles. And you know what's hot right now, Fred? It's been hot for quite a few years, but it's the Olympic medallions, coins, badges, batons, anything to do with the Olympics. Of course, this goes back to the 1908 or 04 or 08 were the first Olympics of the modern era. But if you can find anything, any kind of button or badge or plate, collector plate, or medals or coin, anything to do with the Olympics, put those away and save them for a rainy day because they are paying a nice return. For an example, a 1936 honorary Olympic service medal, second class, 11th Olympic Games, Berlin, gold-plated and enameled, 4 by 4.5 inches with a ribbon, Fred. It looks like a little medal. And that's 1936, and so it was in Germany. I think, who was the black guy that ran the sprints over there, and Hitler got so mad he got up and left? Jesse Owens, I think it was.
Jesse Owens is right.
Anyway, this 1936 medal has a $550 it's worth, Fred. It was probably sold for $1 or 50 cents when it first came out. So that shows you how things go up. So pay attention to that. Also pay attention to baseball memorabilia, old trading cards before the turn of the century, and pennants. Anybody got an old White Sox pennant, or the old Milwaukee Braves pennant, or Minnesota Twins, or New York Mets, or Cleveland Indians? Those pennants are worth some money, so save those. Okay, Freddie. And of course we are taking calls tonight. This is a live program. And that number Roy will be putting up on the screen there, so that if you want to call in and ask us about anything, because you know you got Fred here, he's the expert on Pat Buchanan. And so ask if you want to know anything Pat, just call Fred. And there's some other issues coming up, Fred. There's you know, we were down in the library doing the show for what, 20, 25 years, something like that?
Yeah.
With Cliff and Chris Economaki, the Siamese
Yeah.
Twins of Engineering, and all those other guys down there. Well, you know, the library wants to add on to the,
Yes.
put on an addition. What is it, several millions? You used to be on the library board. How much?
Yes.
How much are they saying that's going to cost for what they want to do?
5 million.
About $5 million. And that'll be on the upcoming ballot Tuesday, week from tomorrow, the big ballot. There's, of course, there's the presidential primaries. There's 9 Republicans. Most of them have already dropped out, but there's still 9 of them on the ballot, because the ballot was made up before the some of these earlier primaries and knocked out some of the people like Alexander and Graham and who else dropped out along the way?
Graham.
Yeah, Graham.
We got, and
So that's coming up. We got the library board referendum, or library.
Lugar.
Yeah, Lugar. We got that referendum, and you got county board races. You got school board races. You got city council races. You got a state Supreme Court judge race.
Yeah, that's
Can you think of anything else?
Mr. Crooks, Judge Crooks.
So
the one we should elect.
So there's a lot on the ballot. As a matter of fact, Fred, there's so much stuff on the ballot. It's a 2-sided ballot. So everybody out there that goes to vote, make sure you turn your ballot over and vote on the other side. Because if you don't, you'll miss all kinds of opportunities to vote for your favorites. Okay, Fred, what do you got there tonight before we take this first
I got
call?
lots of things here. I see where the cries Clinton's threat to veto partial birth abortion bill. And Babe Buchanan says Dole weak on social issues. Also, fair-minded commentators answer Buchanan's demonizers. And that's from the Wanderer, a Catholic newspaper, lay paper of St. Paul.
Well, you know, Freddie,
And you know, I've read things that he's written for several years now, and I find myself in agreement with him every time. And he doesn't attack the Jews. He's not a racist. I've never seen anything that supported racism in his paper or in attacking the Jews.
well, Freddie,
But he has attacked the homosexuals, and God has stated that no man should lie with one another, and no woman with another woman. So, but that is not condoned by God, but it is condoned by our civilization today.
well, you know, Buchanan was on CNN, one of the major networks, for several years on Crossfire, and you know, Ted Turner wouldn't keep him around and embarrass the whole network, multi-billion-dollar network, if Ted Turner, who's a liberal, thought that Pat Buchanan was a racist. It's a bunch of hogwash. It's called suppression, advertising, and telephone calling. And people like Dole hired these large telemarketing firms, Fred. One of them was in Springfield, Illinois, the state capital of Illinois, and they do these suppression calls by the thousands, Fred. And you can look at the graphs, and in the case of Lamar Alexander, Alexander was shooting up like that in the New Hampshire polls until those suppression phone calls started, and he leveled off and came in third. The same with Buchanan. He was going up in the polls. And who was dropping in the polls? Dole was. until those suppression ads and suppression phone calls and suppression TV and radio ads started coming along. When those hit by the thousands, people getting a phone call late at night that's saying all kinds of baloney about Buchanan and Alexander. That's what...
Well, now we have about 500 companies have gone down to Mexico and now hire over 3,000 employees making materials which largely wind up in the United States. And they get paid 50 cents a dollar an hour.
I know, Fred. Well, you know, we're almost on the brink of some kind of, possibly some kind of action here against China. We went head-to-head with China and Korea and came up basically a tie. We lost over 50,000 Americans over there fighting a war where the enemy had our secrets and knew what our next move were, and it cost many American boys their lives because of information that was filtered to
Korea?
Information that was filtered to the communists because it was a UN action. And so too many people were privy to our invasions and our plans over there, and it cost Americans their lives. But right now there's boats steaming towards China, Fred. I'll tell you, you can't fight a 200 million man army. Even the Bible says that.
Yeah.
And we keep poking them with the little pin. We got about a 500,000 man army now, Fred. We can't go up against 200 million. I don't think anybody in the world can. The Bible says, who can fight against them? Who can fight against a 200 million man army? If they start marching, they're unstoppable, Fred. They can go from east to west, all the way to the western edges of Europe.
Go to Taiwan, is that what you're referring to?
Well, they're shooting some live ammunition at Taiwan right now, but and they're getting Hong Kong back, but they want Taiwan back too. And so they're trying to scare Taiwan as having elections coming up, so the Chinese are trying to scare Taiwan into submission and make sure that they don't break away and become a free nation. And so China is harassing them right now. All we've got to stop them is economically. We can quit buying all the junk in the stores.
Yeah, that's true.
And because a lot of that profit goes right back to the Chinese Red Army, Fred, because they own a lot of the factories in China. Well, we better take a call here, Fred. We've had somebody waiting for what seems like hours. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about this interesting article that Plumbaum and Bobby, something about videotaping sexual assault of little kids when they testify in courts, so they'll to freeze up.
Yeah.
You seen tonight's paper?
I read it briefly. Were you talking about a bill that Plumbaum's introducing? You say you wanted to be videotaped, or you want somebody else to be?
Somebody else. I wouldn't want to.
Oh. So what do you think about that Fred tonight? Isn't he cute?
Nice suit on.
Yeah. Nice suit there. How do you like our new sign there?
It's good.
Yeah, those hamburgers almost look good enough to eat, don't they? Of course, we got the taco stand started up here again. We had to close it down there in the basement of the library because of health concerns. Chris and Cliff Economaki, they were living down there in the basement, Fred, and they just weren't keeping the food clean down there. It was a heck of a time down there.
Yeah.
All right, caller. Well, we're going to have to ask you, I guess, because Fred, you can't stump Fred, so we're going to ask you if you know the answer to this question, because you're always calling in and you're wanting to know why I don't ever ask you a question.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, the day is March 12th, that's tomorrow. The year is 1933. President Franklin Roosevelt holds the first of his radio broadcasts to the nation. What were those called?
What's the question? Oh, what's the question supposed to be? What happened in 33?
1933, President Franklin Roosevelt holds the first of his many radio broadcasts to the nation. And they were kind of a personal broadcast, and it was like like an uncle or a brother or a father talking to you, and it was very personal, so they gave a name for it. The last word is chat. The first word is?
Fireside.
Fireside chat.
Yes.
All right, and so because you did so good, we're going to give you this booklet here, and this booklet is the Citizens Rule Book. It has the Bill of Rights, and it's a jury handbook, and it has the Constitution in here, and it's just, there's about 60 pages in here. It's really informative. You need to read this. If you ever get called up for jury duty, or if you need to look to see what the Constitution of the United States really says, and the Declaration of Independence is in here, and there's some articles by William Penn, Rights of a Jury, summary of the Ten Commandments. So this is really informative. And since I'll probably be seeing you at Party Rec Wednesday night, I'll just give it to you there, okay?
Okay.
All right. So don't say you never won anything on the cow report. Okay, well, we got to go, so thanks for calling in, and we'll see you Wednesday night.
Hey, I'll see you Wednesday. Bye.
Okay. There, Fred. All right, what'd you find in there, Fred? You got something short and sweet before we take that next call?
Oh, I've been finding all kinds of things here, especially relating to Pat Buchanan, and they have a series of articles about Pat Buchanan.
That paper must like
facts,
Buchanan.
Not name-calling on Buchanan. Facts, not name-calling on. That's what I was saying before. I've read what he's written. I've listened to him for a couple of years now, and I haven't heard him say anything that was anti-Semitic or that was extremist in any way. But some of the people who are calling him an extremist, Senator Dole for one, is guilty of using the truth in a untruthful fashion.
Well, what do you expect, Fred? They ain't got nothing else to talk about. All right. Well, Roy? Yeah, we had a call there in line one. First of all, I'm going to read this here. This is probably old news to some people, but I think it's important. Wisconsin lawmakers introduced a Torchbearers program, Fred. 4 conservative Wisconsin legislators recently launched a Torchbearers program as a way to recognize non-governmental organizations that are making a positive difference in their communities. State Representative Mark Green from Green Bay, Steve Freeze from way down in Dodgeville, Rob Krybeck from Eau Claire, and Scott Walker from Wauwatosa gave their inaugural Torchbearer certificate to 3 community-based organizations that deserve recognition for their contributions, Fred.
Yes.
And of course, one of them's from Eau Claire. One of the ones that won one of the first Torchbearer awards, and that's the Eau Claire Soup Kitchen. And the other one is a Freedom House. It's a Green Bay homeless shelter. And another one is the Partners Advancing Values in Education, a Milwaukee-based scholarship organization. And they all operate without any government assistance, Fred.
Which is good.
So, if you want to nominate somebody for the Torchbearers Award, you can write to Torchbearers, 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 care of Representative Mark Green. That's P.O. Box 8952, Madison, Wisconsin. The zip code is 53708. That's Torchbearers, care of Mark Green, Box 8952, Madison, Wisconsin, 53708. If you want to nominate somebody from the Eau Claire, greater Eau Claire area that you think, or an organization, or this can be a business, religious organizations, or individuals who that can be nominated, Fred.
Yes, and you can also support Pat Buchanan's bid for presidency of the United States by sending a contribution to Pat Buchanan for President, P.O. Box 1906, Maryville, Virginia, 22116-1906.
Did you say Maryville?
Merrifield.
Merrifield. All right, well, we better take a call here, Fred. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I got 2 questions I want to ask you.
All right.
Number 1, what do you think about the tremendous spending in the presidential election right now?
You mean in the presidential primaries?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Fred? All that spending out there?
Well, I think some people are trying to buy the election.
Well, Forbes has got a few million to throw away, so
Yes.
he can afford to spend as much as he wants to. What I think Pat Buchanan's only spent less than $2 million, hasn't he?
I don't know how much he spent, to be truthful with you.
Dole has spent quite a bit, but
Is that a public election or politics?
pardon?
Is that a public election or politics?
It's a public. Yeah, it's a. You mean for the primaries?
Yeah.
Well, they're public primaries. Anybody can vote for them. If you're over 18, anybody can vote in these primaries. But money talks in this country, and in campaigns, sometimes it's how much money you throw at an election to win it. Now, it didn't work for Ross Perot. He spent $70 million, and he didn't win. And I think George Bush spent about $90 million, and he lost. And I think Clinton spent about $85–90 million, and he won. So you can see there's a lot of money.
Okay. Why would a candidate spend so much money for such a small salary to be a president?
Because it's the most powerful position in the world. You sit there, you control the most powerful destructive forces for destruction or for good in the world. And some people crave and desire that power to have reigns of the most powerful nation on earth. Since we control, since the United States is the most powerful nation, what they say pretty much goes around the world now that the so-called Soviet empire has crumbled a little bit. It puts the United States in first place, and so there's.
Are you still running for office?
Yeah, I'm running for the county board.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm in District 17, which is kind of, you know, where Mike's Smokehouse is, kind of west of there, and Shawtown area, and then east of the river, and south of the Shopko area. So it's a large, spread out district, and it goes from some of the richest people in town to some of the poorest people in town. It's a very diverse district for the county board seat.
All right, well, good luck to you.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Okay. Yeah, Fred, that money really talks in these elections, and I think if I heard right, that Springfield telemarketing outfit got $1 million from the Dole campaign to make them calls.
Did,
of course, they made thousands and thousands of calls, and over 70,000 calls, I guess it was.
I didn't get one of them. I wonder why.
Well, you might get one this week.
I would tell them why I'm going to vote for Pat Buchanan, because I know that Dole has been selling us out.
On what?
Well, he voted for GATT, for NAFTA. He voted to take our guns away and pass that big bill that the president wanted last year, and he's still doing it. He's allowed the troops to go over Bosnia, which he should have opposed. How can we depend upon a man who's doing everything that the Democrats want?
I don't know, Fred. Does Buchanan smoke?
I don't know.
Because, you know, smoking poses a greater risk for the young. Smokers in their 30s and 40s have about 5 times the risk of suffering a heart attack as non-smokers, compared with a risk 2.5 times higher for smokers in their 60s and about 2 times greater for those in their 70s. And the explanation for that is other risk factors such as cholesterol levels and hypertension play a greater role in deaths of older smokers. So Fred, if you're smoking, you better quit now.
I am not smoking, haven't smoked since 1939 or somewhere around that time.
And for people in their 30s and 40s, it's the toughest time for them to quit because they've They've got a 15, 20-year habit going there, Fred. But if they can quit, they can whittle down that 5 times greater risk of suffering a heart attack. And heart attacks are no fun, Fred.
Yes.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
I have 2 questions for you. One is on Pat Buchanan's isolationist policies.
All right.
I'm a little bit concerned about it. I'm not sure that we should just forget about the rest of the world. And I was concerned about what do you guys think? Should we be out of Bosnia? Should we just or should we do what Buchanan says and just basically forget the world and take care of ourselves?
You want to take that call while I'm answering that? I think you had a call coming in there. You got a call waiting?
Oh, do we do it? Just a second.
Okay, Freddie.
Yes.
What do you think about it? Do you think the United States should be...
I don't think that we should be in the United Nations and putting our men under their command, and I don't know how many wars are going on in the United States, but it seems to me that the United Nations are supposed to stop war, and we got more of them going now than they had when they started it.
Well, Fred, the United States owes the United Nations something like $700 million. We're not paying our dues.
Well,
and,
I don't think we should. Let's get out of there.
Somebody was suggesting that we lower our contribution from 25% down to 20%. I say, we're only about, 5% of the world population? We could lower it down to 10%.
Could lower it down to nothing. That'd be better.
But our tax dollars are going to fund some of these revolutions all over the world that are funneled through the United Nations.
I know.
That money appears to be going to certain operations in other parts of the world, but you find out that sometimes it goes for AK-47s and bullets to kill fellow people in those nations where the money goes to.
Right.
In some of them civil wars. So in one sense, Pat Buchanan is right, because if we don't take care of the United States and it collapses, where are you going to go? You can't go anywhere in the rest of the world. That's why when China picks on Taiwan, that's why the United States comes to the rescue, because there's no one else in the world. And so the United States has many enemies, nations and individuals around the world that would like to see the United States collapse. Because if they could collapse the United States, then who's gonna be left out there, Fred, to stop aggression around the world?
Right.
Unfortunate
I agree with you.
It's unfortunate the United States has to be the world cop out there, but who are you going to leave it to? Are you going to leave it to the Soviets, or the communists, or the Chinese?
The Soviets are in there,
the Arabs,
doing it too, and they are financing some of this that's going on in the world at the present time.
I don't think Buchanan's as isolationist as they make him appear, Fred. I know he's for America first, and he wants to make sure that Americans that are already in this country have good jobs so that they can realize the American dream. But if you keep flooding this nation with people from around the world, there's millions of Americans that are already here that will never realize the American dream.
I agree there.
And they'll always be in poverty. We've seen a lot of problems because of too much immigration, Fred. And all he's saying is, let's let the people that are here now assimilate into this country, learn the language, learn the customs of the United States, assimilate in, and then we can open up the gates again once the American Dream Index rises up a little bit for the Americans that are already here. Then we can allow other people from other nations in at a higher rate. But he wants to slow that rate down.
You've got to slow it down. Is right.
Yeah. So does that help you on that question, caller? I guess he took that other call, Fred, but I know that's a sticking point with a lot of people, because your relatives probably came from England or Ireland. Some of my relatives came from Germany and Sweden, and but Fred, we're just at a point now where we've got a large. It's kind of like an egg going through a snake. We've got this big hunk of foreigners that are in this country now that are trying to be assimilated. Once that works its way through the culture, and then things will be better.
Well, one of the reasons that they have, people are, especially the Democrats, supported this is to get more people into the Democratic Party, and most of them come in, they're poor and everything, that's where they go.
Okay, caller, go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, I was wondering what your campaign strategies are.
My campaign strategies are to win.
What do you feel your strongest view is that you're reaching for toward the public?
Okay, since I'm running for the county board, these are worldly, earth-shaking ideas, but I have a few ideas. I'd like to make sure that we've got three pretty nice natural resources in the county: the Eau Claire River, the Chippewa River, and the Eau Claire Forest on the county forest on the east side of the county. I'd like to make sure that those are protected environmentally, and that forest is home to thousands of deer and other animals, and if we just let some mining company willy-nilly come in here and just mow that down, we're going to wipe out the shelter for a lot of deer and other animals that people like to hunt. So environmentally, I'd like to make sure that the Eau Claire and Chippewa rivers remain pristine and clean as possible, and possibly we can take some of the idle prisoners down at the county jail, and they can go along those two rivers and clean the banks from one end to the other in the counties, and make sure that some of that stuff that gets thrown in there, get it back out so there's less pollution. Also, we have, I'd like to see a citizens review board set up in the county for people who have complaints against county employees or against service they receive on the county level, or they just think they got a bad deal from somebody that they've dealt with on the county level. A citizen review board that would be independent of the Eau Claire County Board, but would report certain problems or issues to the county board if that review board, independent board, deems it necessary, and that would be made up of 7 individuals from the county, and it would include minorities, and so that in case of any racial problems or anything to do with the county in hiring or whatever, where somebody feels like they haven't been treated fairly. I'd also like to see the county offices remain open one day a week, later than 5 o'clock or later than 4:30, whatever they're closing now, 4:30 or 5.
I agree.
Some people don't get off work till 5 o'clock. They've got something they gotta go down to the courthouse for, or to one of the offices down there, and they get down there and it's closed. So in Eau Claire, a lot of businesses stay open till 9 o'clock on Thursday night. There's no reason why the county offices couldn't remain open one night a week late so that people can take care of business. And that would just mean that the hours would be changed some other, maybe later that day, to accommodate the night people that need to get to the courthouse to take care of business. But see, the people that work for the county, they're servants of the people, of the taxpayers of the county. And so they shouldn't bellyache because they have to work one day a week late, because they're serving all the citizens of the county. So they should willingly, even their union should willingly allow that to happen, so that the people that work late can get their business done in the county. Let's see, the county jail. I'd like to make sure that the county jail, there's people in the county that are sentenced to the jail, that they have a decent, clean jail to go serve their time in, and not an overcrowded jail, not a jail full of federal or state prisoners, but Eau Claire County prisoners should have first shot at them seats, because the taxpayers are footing the bill to make sure that our streets are safe, and if there's not enough room for somebody that needs to be put in jail from the county, and because we're housing outsiders, then we've got a problem, and we need to make sure that our county prisoners are first. And somebody's going in, if somebody's sentenced to 90 days in there, they should be able to go in there and serve their time and not worry about homosexual rape or being beat up or being choked to death by cigarettes or whatever. And so, you know, because they're sentenced, they're serving their time. You know, they should be able to serve their time and get it over with.
Okay, thank you very much, and best of luck to you.
All right, thank you. You know, the other thing is, Fred, on that Huber Center, there's no room over at the courthouse for it. Unless they build another floor up on top of there. But they're looking at Banbury Place right here where we're at. They're looking at one of these buildings out here. And, you know, the Huber program is for people that are sentenced to a minor infraction of the law, but the judge sees it fit that they should do some kind of overnight time. So, but the judge knows that they're safe enough to be on the streets during the day, so they allow them to go out during the day, work, pay taxes, so that their families can still eat and their rent is paid and all that.
Yes.
That's what the Huber program is for. So they're looking at the Banbury Place out here. There is some concerns about the daycare center, so they want to make sure that it's far enough away from the daycare center so that there's no problems there. But I'm sure it's going to be a secure facility. These buildings are already up, so we don't have to worry about spending millions to build some building from scratch. And security doesn't have to be that great, Fred, because these are almost like trustees anyway. They're trusted enough to leave during the day. So, but there needs to be some assurances.
What do you think about those that are running for the city council?
Well, Freddie, I'm against that downtown arena. Of course, that's a city issue, unless they tax the whole county for it. I don't know if they will, but unfortunately, I don't know if there's anyone out running for the city council that's going to try and stop that white elephant.
There's one beginning with T, I think his name began with.
Talon?
Yeah, I think he's wanting if they're going to build it, to have it built by private industry and run by private industry.
Well, there's
in other words, that would save us $367,000 a year, and I don't think we have the $367,000 to lose.
Well, there's also the $21 million to build it, Fred.
Yes.
I don't know if the taxpayers want to. Besides that, you got the library project.
Mr. Wright is the one who put that bill before the city council. I think we would be better off without Mr. Wright.
Well, you know, Fred, there's also the city's is in the process now of trying to pay off a $30 million school expansion, and there's all kinds of other projects. They're trying to fix up the Carson Park, and they want to renovate the library, and the county fairgrounds is in the process of being built.
We need to fix our streets.
The streets are terrible.
I know it.
Of course, these rough winters don't help, Fred, but that's another thing where these idle county prisoners could be out filling potholes. Why let them sit up in there and get in fights and read dirty magazines and smoke cigars?
The union here in Eau Claire that the men belong to won't permit somebody coming in and doing that.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hello. Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening.
A couple of questions and a comment on the jail in Eau Claire. You are not allowed to smoke in the jail.
Well, that's good.
Right.
When did they change that?
I'm not sure of that. I believe that went, if not county or statewide. One issue I had to question you about, I've heard some talk about turning London Square into a civic center.
You know, I was out there Thursday night, and there's 11 empty stores in there now. That's including Prangy Way and the Walgreens, the Walgreens store is empty. And of course, Sears is going to be pulling out of there. I mean, that mall is going the way of Highland Mall. I mean, Highland Mall is making a comeback now, but London Square is starting to look kind of rough out there.
Right.
I was out there on Thursday night, and you could shoot a gun from one end to the other and not hit anybody.
Okay.
And so, you know, that Sears building is pretty big there. They could do some renovation in there, and you know, they would have to expand into the parking lot because, but there you've got some bricks and mortar already up. You wouldn't have to start from scratch and spend $21 million. Maybe they could get it down to $10 million and find about 90% private investors. And
you know what they're going to be doing with that? It's something that's in the process. They're going to put in a wholesale where you buy things for less.
Well,
That's in the process of being operated on
in
now.
London Square.
Yes,
Well, they've got some awful big buildings out there, awful big stores empty, Fred.
I know.
Several big ones in there. So yeah, there's an idea there, but you know, you think about it though, the fairgrounds is building a kind of an arena type exhibition building out there, and you've got several other buildings. You got the two Hobbs Ice arenas that I know I was attending an event in the smaller Hobbs Ice. There's two facilities there on the arena here in Eau Claire, the ice arena, and the smaller one held 1,000 people, and that wasn't using the bleachers around the edges, but that larger one is bigger than that. So there's and then the Hobbs Arena over in Altoona. Those are underutilized too, but I think the era of these 8,000 and 10,000 seat arenas for a small city like Eau Claire, I think that era is over, Fred. Too many of them went belly up and have drained the taxpayers of some of them smaller cities, and I just don't think that La Crosse is doing that great with theirs.
No,
I'd like to see if La Crosse
they're losing $200,000 and more a
I'd like
year.
to see if La Crosse is running 180 events a year, and when the students leave, Fred, in the spring, that's 3 months where you're not going to have the student base for all these rock and roll extravaganzas they're going to bring in here. So who's going to fill it up in the summertime when it's hot and sticky? You know, Fred, you've got a handful of people that are trying to push this thing down the taxpayers' throats, Fred, and I don't know. But what do you think about it, caller? Do you think Eau Claire has to have an arena?
I don't believe so.
Isn't there enough buildings that, in the summertime, we've got all these outdoor festivals that are in the area now. Just how much entertainment does Eau Claire need? Do they have to have something going every night for $10 a whack? Can't people find some way to entertain themselves?
I don't believe they need to try and incorporate that into the city of Eau Claire.
Let's see, if the average ticket is $10, which is probably not too bad because some of them are going to cost you $30. If you bring in like a Barbara Streisand, who probably wouldn't come into a little old Eau Claire, but if you bring in somebody of that caliber, you're going to have to pay $25, $30, $35 a ticket. So let's say the average is $15 a ticket. How many people are going to be able to afford that every other night of the year?
They're not going to be able to afford it.
I might go to 3 events a year, Fred.
Right.
I might go to none.
And so I'm going to spend my $30, but how many people out there are going to be able to afford every other night to go out and party?
Right. Okay, moving on then. What about the possibility of permitting for concealed handguns?
Permitting concealed handguns.
Right.
Okay, well, there are certain people that need to carry weapons. I know a guy that carries sometimes over $10,000 in valuables like gold and stuff, and he has a permit for a concealed weapon. So there's already a process in Wisconsin where you can get a permit. So I don't know what the big hubbub and hullabaloo is all about this concealed handgun thing. People have had concealed handguns in Wisconsin for years, and there's always going to be certain people that are going to need them, and plus there's a lot of cops walking around with a gun when they're off duty.
Right.
So I just think it's a political, just a political ploy to make some people mad and make other people happy. But I think you can get a gun already.
Sure.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. And Thompson already loosened up the gun laws in Wisconsin, so it's you still got to get that. You still got to when you buy a gun in Wisconsin, you still got to prove that you can own it. And I noticed one of the gun shops here in town, it says right on the front door you can't even go in there unless you're 18. So I don't think there's that. I don't think it's big of a deal. What do you think about that concealed gun, Fred? You're not packing, are you?
No, I'm not.
What's that bulge in your pocket there?
My wallet.
All right, you're not one of them secret top secret agents, or
No, sir.
you're not working for the government protecting anybody or anything?
Nope.
Okay, just checking. So yeah, I think it's just a one of them election year ploys to gain a few votes. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
There's bigger issues out there.
Definitely. I guess in closing then, I'd like to see the senior center, something revamped, move it out of where it is, either into the old Randall's building, possibly part of London Mall.
It's already going to be built on Bellinger and Madison.
Okay.
Yeah, they've already tore down the buildings up there. If you go up on Bellinger there, you notice that where EJ's restaurant was, and that whole, and the Salvation, there was it the thrift store in there, that's all been wiped out. It's a clear block now.
Okay.
That's another one of the things that are on the burner here in Eau Claire, is raising money to build a senior citizen center, which is sorely needed. I used to serve on the senior citizens board, city county board, and several years ago, and that was when they were just starting the process of trying to get out of that building, and they're still working on it. But Eau Claire does need a better senior citizen center, and it's going to be a reality probably within 2 years. They'll probably have a building on that site up there. So that's well on its way. The fundraising has already started for that, and like I say, the lot's already been cleared, and so that is another project that I think is more important than a civic center right now.
I agree. Could you zoom in on your hamburger sign, and I'll say goodnight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Well, we'll have to have Roy Rogers Hoff or Chris and Cliffy Kanamaki, one of the Siamese twins of engineering, to come in here. Well, you can see, yeah, there you can see it there. Those are delicious hamburgers, Fred, and you know, we still sell those for 15 cents down here at the
You do, huh?
Cow Report taco stand. You know, you can still get those hamburgers for 15 cents down here. 6 for $1. Aren't those yummy? Okay, we got a call in there, Chris. All right, well, Fred, first, before I take this call, I got something hot off the press here about Dan Quayle. And this is from the Washington Post, March 2nd.
Yes.
Observed that he may be under attack by the party hierarchy at home in Virginia, but that hasn't stopped the national Republican establishment from rushing to defend Senator John W. Warner as he tries to fend off an aggressive conservative primary challenge. Former Vice President Dan Quayle, the latest GOP heavy hitter to rally behind Warner, flew to Virginia today to endorse the three-term senator at a boisterous rally at his alma mater, Washington and Lee University. John Warner is a man of great leadership abilities, Quayle told a crowd of 200 students and other supporters outside the chapel where Robert E. Lee is buried. John Warner is a man of character. John Warner has made a difference in the United States Senate. And guess who John Warner's girlfriend is, Fred? Barbara Walters.
Oh boy, he's got a dilly as a girlfriend.
Okay. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi,
Hello.
how's it going?
Fine.
You know what I really hate
What?
is Wisconsin's known as a hick state, you know?
Wisconsin is known as a hick state?
Yeah, because, you know, of all the cheese and milk farming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really bugs me.
Are you from another state?
No, I'm from Wisconsin.
Well, how do you know people consider us hicks up here then?
You know, I go to Texas and stuff a lot, and I always go, how's the cheese? Stuff like that.
Ah, they're just jealous because we almost beat them down there in Dallas, and if Green Bay would have beat them, Green Bay would have went to the Super Bowl, and so that's why Texas is mad. But you know, when nobody's looking, they probably eat that Wisconsin cheese and drink that Wisconsin beer.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And a lot of tourists come up here and shoot those Wisconsin deers and gamble in those Wisconsin casinos and fish in those Wisconsin lakes.
Wisconsin rules.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice state. You know, the mosquitoes are even starting to cooperate. I haven't gotten ate up, and the wood ticks, you know, the wood ticks are starting to be a little politer than they used to, Fred. You notice that?
No.
No,
I don't notice it.
Okay. All right. Well, Freddie, what do you got there? You got something short, or is this going to be Pat Buchanan night?
Well, but we ought to talk about Pat Buchanan because he's the one that is running for president, and we need a change in what's being done. We're not going to get it from Mr. Dole.
Well, Freddie, you know, it's beginning to look like you can make it. You can have a choice. You can either lose with Buchanan, you can either lose with Forbes, or you can lose with Dole. Right now,
I don't think we're going to lose with a lot of people are going to come in, and I've talked to Democrats who can't vote for him in this election, but they will vote for him if he is the presidential candidate in November.
I know, Freddie, but they're saying right now that the only ones that can possibly beat Clinton
It's not Dole. It's not Dole.
The only ones right now.
I won't even vote for him
I
because
just read a poll last night on the internet.
Treason, you might say, to the regular Republican principles.
I just read a poll. I think it was in Time magazine, a Time poll. The only pair, president and vice presidential candidate on the Republican side, that can knock off Clinton, Gore, is Dole and Colin Powell.
Right.
That's the only team right now that looks like they can take them on. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
I'd like to ask a question. You're running for the city council, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm running for county board, but go ahead.
You know how much money the Fine Arts building has lost downtown, the old city? Remember the old city theater down there?
The Regional Arts Center?
Do you know how much the city's pumped into them to save them? They've lost quite a bit of money. Now they're talking about building a new arena downtown.
Yeah, that's what I kind of fear too. Some of these smaller venues like the Regional Arts Center, which is just struggling along, trying to keep their head above water. Something like this arena could just knock them out. That would have to fold. And, you know, that's too bad. Some people enjoy going to the Regional Arts Center, and it'll seat 1,100 people in there, and it's underused.
Right.
It sits empty, you know, probably 20 days out of the month.
They've been backed by the money from the motels, funds, and all that.
Yes, the city has given some money to the Regional Arts Center too.
A lot of money.
And because they felt it was worthy, and it's a historical building, and it's beautiful inside there. I've been in there a couple times.
I agree with you there.
And that's one of those things, though. How many events can a guy go to? You're going to go to those. You're going to continue to go to the Regional Arts Center, and then try and support the arena. And then there's the Memorial High School auditorium, where they have a lot of Christian events. People that want to go to that, and there's I don't know. It's just too much.
Thank you for your comment, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. And are we going to support the Regional Arts Center, Fred, or are they going to let that just slide down the tubes into oblivion?
I don't know.
I think they need to do a survey, Fred, of what they've got now, and start utilizing it better. And plus, you got the old Civic Center that sits there empty most of the time. And that was sold by the city because they were in the hole.
Yes.
Well, we better take another call here, Fred. Things are
All
heating
right.
up out there. And, you know, did we read that thing about National Public Radio attacking with some anti-Christian bigotry? Did I read that?
No.
Before I take this next call, I better read this real quick. National Public Radio guilty of anti-Christian bigotry. In an unbelievable display of anti-Christian bigotry funded by tax dollars, National Public Radio commentator Andrea Codrescu, sounds like something from the Far East there, described the return of Christ and Christian theology, 1 Thessalonians 4:17, as quote-unquote crap. This was on National Public Radio, Fred, according to a December 19th transcript of National Public Radio's All Things Considered. This Codrescu, I think that's how you pronounce her name, said, the evaporation of 4 million people who believe in this crap would leave the world an instantly better place. Now, what does she mean by evaporation, Fred? Is this some kind of Nazi talk here? I mean, that's what happened to 6 million Jews and gypsies and homosexuals over in Germany. Evaporated. After Christian Coalition contacted National Public Radio executive producer Ellen Weiss, Weiss admitted that Kudrescu's commentary crossed the line. NPR declined to allow Christian Coalition Executive Director Ralph Reed 2 minutes of airtime on All Things Considered to offer an opposing view. And of course, National Public Radio and the National Public Television get billions of tax dollars.
We shouldn't be giving them any. They should be on their own there.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
All right, well, I've got a couple questions. I'll hurry.
All right.
Okay, if you were elected, what would you do with the Cow Report? What would...
The Cow Report has been, various forms of the Cow Report have been on for 10 years, and or was it 20 to 25 years, something like that.
10 years.
Between 10 and 20 to 25. So we'll keep going on. It's on Monday night. The county board meetings are on Tuesday night. So the Cow Report will always be here to bring truth and light into the Eau Claire darkness.
Yeah, but I mean, when you use it, aren't you going to... Hello?
Yeah.
Aren't you going to use the show as like a forum to get some of the issues out? Because that's half the problem. The public is uninformed of what's going on in the county board. Everyone, you know, moans and groans when something doesn't go their way, but the rest of the time they don't care.
Well, you know, the county board meetings are broadcast on public access. They have been for years, and they even have sign language in the lower right-hand corner for those that can read sign language. So if you
yeah, but hold on. There's a big problem though, in that usually that's on during the day and stuff, and like there's no schedule that comes out like a TV guide every week, so you know when it is. So unless you can tape it or something, if you're at work, you know, it's pretty hard to see.
Mm-hmm. I think they air it more than once during the month, and maybe they're going to plan on doing that. But you're right here. If there's issues that need to be discussed, and of course I'm going to be from time to time we're going to have a commentary from Lorraine Lee, who spent many resourceful years on the city and county boards, and she will be giving us her insight into some of the county issues as they come up. And like the weather in Wisconsin, there'll always be new issues. There'll always be the weather changes, and there'll always be something to talk about in Eau Claire.
What's your big platform? What's your idea or change for the county board?
Well, we brought them up earlier. Unfortunately, it's 10 o'clock, and we have to release all you captive viewers so you can turn on the channel, the local news programming. So we're going to have to let you go, caller. Sorry. And I've been your host, Chuck Lee. With me, my rusty, trusty sidekick, Fred the Truth Stavert, Director Roy Rogers Hoff Jr. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to vote next Tuesday, March 19th. Vote early and vote often. And Fred, don't forget to vote for Pat Buchanan. I'm sure you will. And we'll see you again next week.
Vote early and vote often.
We'll see you next week. Adios.